Call the October 5th, 2023 council meeting to order.
Councilmember Howe.
Present.
Councilmember Hyman.
Present.
Councilmember Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Worth.
Here.
Councilmember Wright. Here. Vice Mayor Riffle.
Here.
And Mayor Malpacheck.
Here.
This evening we have our prayer and pledge by Councilmember Howe.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in a meaningful discussion. Allow us to continue to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of the community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening we are recognizing a new kind of tradition.
Yes, the city of Clarksburg recognizes the importance of the businesses that locate in our city, and we want to take the opportunity to show our appreciation. So we will be presenting a token gift and certificate of appreciation to a respective business at each regular council meeting, expressing our gratitude.
At this time, if we could have Art Background come forward with our mayor and vice mayor.
Art by Krim, owned and operated by Jim and Katie Krim, was first established in Clarksburg in 1991. Jim and Katie started out in their small apartment on South 5th Street, offering custom framing and selling Katie's original artwork, until the demand became greater, at which time they relocated to South Chestnut Street, where they remain today. Throughout the years, the business has grown and has added a photography business selling images all over the state. Everything at Art by Krim is original and produced at 834 South Chestnut Street. Their extraordinary artwork adorns the walls of many of the places that most of us have visited, from restaurants to hospitals, government buildings, and the Robinson Grand Performing Arts Center.
City of Clarksburg Certificate of Appreciation. The certificate is presented with Art by Krim in recognition and sincere appreciation for your 32 years of business in the city of Clarksburg. Thank you for being an integral part of the city of Clarksburg's unique small town charm, enhancing our community that so many of us proudly call home. Jim, Katie, congratulations.
We just really want to appreciate everybody. Clarksburg is, I was born here 57 years ago. I still love it here. Brought my wife here. I love the people. They have supported us as we support you all as much as we can. We thank you. And I'd say it's another wonderful 32 years, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I didn't marry him. I was going to marry Clarksburg too.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Approval of the minutes of the conference work session of September 14th, 2023.
I move we approve the conference work session minutes from September 14th, 2023 as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Approval of the minutes of the regular session of September 21, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Petitions, communications, and public hearings. Jody Barbario, 1732 North 20th Street, wishes to address council concerning positive and negative issues in the city.
Just too positive. My name is Jody Barbario. Some of you already know me as a volunteer of Northview Pride and First Friday Committee. However, I'm here to speak on my own behalf here, not on for those committees. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the new council and the new city manager. It was something that former city manager Harry Falk said that stuck with me and actually is the reason I decided to talk today. He said he went on one of the social media platforms, and when he read the comments about the city, he thought, people reading these comments would probably think this is not a place I'd want to live. And since then, I've become more aware of the negative things that people say about the city. And it is human nature for us to look at the negative first. It's in our DNA to be, survive. And although we need to look at what needs to be improved, it's nice to stop once in a while and look at some of the positive things. And I'd like to do that. Older people around here like to talk about how the city was in the 50s and the 60s, myself included. I grew up in Northview in a neighborhood where people would walk to work and they would go to the post office, walk to school, even to the hardware store. And we had a vibrant downtown, and it was filled with thriving small businesses, movie theaters, and shops. And things have changed though, but we cannot go back to those good old days to be like that again. Like other towns, we're trying to struggle with adapting to these rapid changes that are happening. But I think if we look deep enough into those stories, I think what we see, what we're longing for, is a sense of community, the energy of hope and prosperity. A community gives people a sense of belonging, of pride. And no matter how much we change, the city changes, I don't think that's ever going to change. I think we're going to always need that. And honestly, what I'm about to say now, I wrote this before all this stuff went on with the schools. But the neighborhood school plays a huge role in the community. Public schools are not just about community. They're an institution of democracy because public schools are open for everyone, regardless of their background, their income, or their race. And I taught for a long time, and I lived through a lot of school closings. And every time a school closed, we all saw the negative effects on what it did to our community. And it didn't matter. Teachers spoke, community leaders spoke, they did it anyway. And then I would just shake my head because the new school administrators would come to the teachers and say, well, we need some ideas, how we can get the parents and the community involved. And I usually wrote down, stop closing the school communities and they'll be involved. And I urge council to declare their support for community schools, public schools, and teachers. And we all have a stake in those. Parks, they play a role in the community. They bring our families together, our communities together, and they contribute to the health and well-being of our communities, regardless of our age or our background. And like schools, they are also a part of inclusion. Our city and our county officials, I think they recognize that because in every community here, we have a beautiful and well-maintained park. Our city is rich in history and arts. The History Museum reminds us of the contribution that our ancestors made. It reminds us of where we've been, and it reminds us where we need to go. The Robinson Grant has promoted community and social coherence. It brings people together. The performers, when they connect with the audience, they can inspire, they can teach us lessons of life. Libraries and churches, they provide us with a sense of belonging in our communities. A library is a place you go to learn and to dream. Churches provide us with a place of safety and comfort for those in need. All of these things are vital to the health and the well-being of this town, of all towns. Now, our city is struggling, though, with some negative issues. Of course, we have the same issues that thousands of cities are struggling with. Things like drug addiction, homelessness, abandoned homes, litter, and population decline. And a lot of our resources, whether it's state, local, or federal, these have been spent on the effects of the problems: prisons, rehabilitation, code enforcement, policing, and even picking up litter. Those things are necessary, but maybe we should look at what's causing them. We can start out by asking ourselves, why are so many people addicted? Why do we have so many homeless, incarcerated, and poor people? There are many contributing factors: trauma, neglect, abuse, and depression. Statistics show that really there are two factors that seem to go around all of those problems. Because people who live in areas that are concentrated poverty and lower levels of education, they're at a higher risk. You simply don't see high levels of crime or homelessness or litter or shortened lifespan, for that matter, in places with higher incomes and education. So life expectancy was declining before the pandemic, and it continues to fall because of death of despair. And I think some of you in here can relate to this. I know personally, I've had former students and friends that have died from death of despair. They're young. They're not old people. They're dying of alcohol, suicide, and drug-related
Your
deaths.
time. Can you wrap it up, please?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
In 1977, the minimum wage was $2. It's $4. If you went to work in one of our local factories, you got to be paid $4.25 an hour. People back then, they could actually make a living. They weren't rich, but they could send their kids to school. But now we've got 1 in 4 Americans living with medical debt. The federal minimum wage has not been raised since 2009. And a living wage today is far beyond what our current federal minimum wage should be. And yet, for some reason, people were upset with poor people, not the system that shifted this wealth to the upper 1%. And so there are 3 billionaires that make more money than the bottom 90%. And yet it seems that most people believe the poor and the powerless are the ones that are gaming the system and taking advantage of it. Poverty is a policy, not just the minimum wage, but we've got child tax credit. They cut poverty in half. Congress, what did they do? They let it go. There's federal funding now for child care legislation. If funding isn't passed soon, it's going to create even more decades of care sites that are going to be long. But before policy can be made, and I'll wrap this up,
Thank you.
we're going to have to take a look at a journey from our brain here to our hearts and think about budgets and policies that are going to focus on the safety and well-being of our citizens, policies that give people an opportunity to live, thrive, not just get by. And it's said that you can live one of two ways, according to your circumstances or a vision. And this is not true just as individuals, but collectively. And we're feeling so overwhelmed by these circumstances that we're living with that we've forgotten the vision of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. In Proverbs 20:19, it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. So I hope council will consider when they're looking at the city, making a budget, what do you want the city to look like in 4 to 8 years? I hope it's a vision of opportunity and for all of our citizens, and we reclaim the energy of prosperity, community, and belonging.
Thank you.
Sean Jeju, 409 Heyman Highway, wishes to address council concerning the Jackson Cemetery update
Also concerns.
and concern.
Sorry. And that's kind of hard to follow up on her. It does kind of, there's a little bit of what I can tie into her. She hit on it as far as the cemetery is a community thing. And I don't know how, a lot of you are lifelong residents of Clarksburg. So you would know that over the years, probably at this point, close to at least 20 years of newspaper articles saying how important that Jackson Cemetery is, how it's a tourist attraction. And I know things are slow, but it's nice to see that it's finally being recognized as that. Now, my main concern is I appreciate being allowed to do the work in there. I appreciate support and all that. And that's one of the things that when I solicit money for the organization, that I keep these kinds of projects in mind. So it's not just gas and trimmer line, as some have said in the past, but restoration work, education. But my main concern is that there's been, maybe it's natural causes, but I kind of find it hard to believe, recent vandalism that kind of like, you put work into something, you see it knocked over and toppled. And then you start doing research on the deed work and all that, and you see that over the years, it's kind of a historically an issue since Clarksburg has had it for, 60 years. But can't really blame the past. But I know there are things right now that could be done. I know one of the past councils had voted for security cameras. I believe Gary Keith was involved in that, and I think from what I understand, they might still be available. And since it's your property as a city, maybe you should look into at least just putting one to maintain and watch over it, because that property is an investment, specifically considering there's the tours now, and those tours are bringing upwards of, I think Marcia said the next tour has probably got about 20-some people on it. And if you just look at historically, those newspaper articles I mentioned about tourism, it's kind of got a national feel. Like Stonewall Jackson, I mean, I think we could, honestly, we have bigger history that we could focus on. But Stonewall and his family is pretty pivotal. They actually predate Clarksburg's 1785 formation. And they got an interesting history. That's all I got to say there. But just wanted to give you an update on that concern there. As far as the work goes, I'm basically just at the point where I'm just kind of cleaning the headstones, trying to get some volunteers to help with the additional heavier monuments that I can't lift on my own. I mean, I don't want to ask the city, even though it is your property, because I know you got more important things to do. But if that's ever a possibility, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Pinkasoff, and I'm sorry if I butchered your name, of Staten Island wishes to address council concerning Friends Feeding Friends.
And if I may, please, everybody keep their comments to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. My name is Tom Pinkasoff. I am the Northeast Regional Organizer at You Are the Power, an international nonprofit organization that is devoted to supporting local grassroots activists through the promotion of government accountability. We were contacted by Friends Feeding Friends, which is a local nonprofit that hosts a weekly pop-up soup kitchen right here in Clarksburg outside the First United Methodist Church over on Pike and 2nd. Friends Feeding Friends reports receiving a concerning amount of negative attention from the city government and police department, largely targeted at the population that they serve, primarily those experiencing homelessness, those suffering from substance addiction, and families living below the poverty line. What this amounts to is a concerning pattern of discriminatory conduct in governance and policing, mostly targeted at the socioeconomic lower class. This is unacceptable. My organization put out a press release earlier this week denouncing this activity because it seems like I, a resident of a city 400 miles away, am more concerned about the well-being of your neighbors than the city government. I'm happy to report that during a 90-minute meeting today with 4 members of the city government, City Manager Tiffany Fell, Vice Mayor Jerry Riffle, and Council Members Will Hyman and Mark Jackson, we were able to come to an amicable, mutually agreeable resolution to this issue. And I'd like to personally thank these 4 people for sitting down with us. Now, I'm flying back to New York tomorrow afternoon, but this doesn't end here. While I commend the city for being willing to work with us, I make the following warning. If you do not keep your word, my organization will make sure people know about it. Your constituents, your neighbors, and your community members, both here in Clarksburg and beyond, will hold you accountable. Because the fact of the matter is, Friends Feeding Friends is a private organization made up of private citizens conducting private activity on private property. They have every right to be doing what they're doing, and it is absolutely despicable to take it out on those in need. Following me, you will hear from 2 regular volunteers of Friends Feeding Friends. They're going to address the benefits of this organization's activities and what they have seen firsthand. And once again, I'd like to thank Ms. Fell and Mrs. Riffle, Jackson, and Hyman. I am optimistic that we can bring Clarksburg to its potential. And if we work together, we can make organizations like Friends Feeding Friends obsolete entirely because we won't need them. We won't have these issues in Clarksburg. But right now, people are struggling. And what I'm seeing is a city that is targeting the people who need our help the most. People who are struggling the most. And an organization that is simply feeding those who are hungry should never be discriminated against, and neither should be the population that they serve. So once again, I really hope that we can come to an amicable resolution. I really hope over the next few weeks this problem goes away. But if it does not, we will be watching. Thank you, and I yield the remainder of my time.
Maylee Henderson, 261 Magnolia Avenue, wishes to address council for the support and continuation of the organization Friends Feeding Friends.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Maylee Henderson. I'm a Clarksburg native and a Robert Seabird High School alumni, and I'm currently studying law and political science at West Virginia University. My roots are in Clarksburg, and because I volunteered every Wednesday for multiple years during my high school career, my roots are with Friends Feeding Friends. Today, I stand before you to advocate for an essential cause that lies at the heart of our community, supporting Friends Feeding Friends, an organization committed to alleviating hunger and homelessness in our city. I urge you to consider the immense benefits that supporting this organization can bring to our community. Friends Feeding Friends plays a crucial role in addressing the immediate needs of our homeless population. You might think, why should I care about that? And in my opinion, it's your job. The homeless people in Clarksburg are first and foremost people and should be treated as such. They are citizens of Clarksburg equally as much as you and I. Therefore, their well-being and prosperity is your responsibility. Friends Feeding Friends provides warm meals as well as access to shelter and other basic amenities, offering hope to those who have fallen on hard times. By supporting this organization, we can help ensure that no one in our city goes to bed hungry and everyone has access to basic necessities. However, the impact of Friends Feeding Friends extends far beyond the immediate relief it provides. So allow me to share some evidence I've gathered of the benefits. First and foremost, improved health and well-being. Access to nutritious meals and shelter not only prevents hunger, but also contributes to better physical and mental health among homeless individuals. This in turn reduces the strain on our healthcare system. Number 2, reduced crime. Studies have shown that when homeless individuals have access to basic necessities like food and shelter, there's a decrease in petty crimes often committed out of desperation. Supporting Friends Feeding Friends can lead to a safer city for everyone who lives here. Number 3, community building. Volunteers and donors come together every week to support this cause, fostering a sense of community and unity. This collaborative spirit strengthens the social fabric of our city. And I personally can attest to the fact that Friends Feeding Friends taught me valuable lessons about servitude, loving my neighbors, and tolerance for people and lifestyles that are different than my own. Number 4, pathways to stability. Friends Feeding Friends also provides resources and connections for job placement, addiction recovery, and housing assistance, offering a chance for the homeless individuals to regain stability and independence. Finally, number 5, economic benefits. Investing in Friends Feeding Friends is not just a moral obligation, but it is the intelligent economic choice. By addressing homelessness, we can reduce the strain on emergency services, hospitals, and the criminal justice system, which ultimately saves our taxpayers money. So in conclusion, supporting Friends Feeding Friends is not only a humanitarian gesture, but it's a strategic investment in the well-being of our city and all of its residents. By providing immediate relief, fostering community, and offering pathways to stability, we can make a lasting impact on the lives of our homeless population and on our city as a whole. So I urge you, members of the council, to allocate support for Friends Feeding Friends. Together, we could nourish hope, build community, and create a brighter future for everyone who lives in Clarksburg. And if all of this was not convincing enough, when those currently struggling get back on their feet, and they do get back on their feet very often with the help of Friends Feeding Friends, you will need their vote. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Lou Ann Humphrey, Sun Valley Road, wishes to address council.
Hello, my name is Lou Ann Humphrey, and I've lived here in Clarksburg for 67 years. And I just started a year ago volunteering with Friends Feeding Friends. And I was really impressed when I first started. I couldn't believe how they interacted with everybody, knew everybody's names. They would come and ask us to pray with them, and it was just overwhelming. And then after it was over, I noticed every Wednesday night, people would go around with garbage bags and pick up everything that was there even before we came. So I know someone had said that we leave a lot of trash when we are done, but that's not so. But I wanted to tell you, in Matthew 25:35, the Lord said, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. Was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? And when did we see you as a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" Then the Lord will reply, "Truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of these, the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." And I feel like this is something the Lord has put on all our hearts that work with Friends Feeding Friends, is to be there for those people like the Lord wants us to. And I know at one council meeting when we were outside doing our peace walk, and they said we were protesting, which we weren't, but I noticed everybody was laughing and making fun of us, and I thought, you're also laughing and making fun of God, because that's what we're here to do, is God's work. And in Galatians 6:2, it says, bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. And that is what we are trying to do. We're trying to take care of them, make their lives just a little more pleasant, I believe, in order to give them clothes and to feed them and see what they need. And also, this is my opinion, but I think it's also the Lord's, that no one here, I don't care what position you have, how much money you have, you're not a bit better than anybody out there on the streets that have fallen on hard times. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kim Bassett, 88 Pinewood Lane, wishes to address council to thank Hattie Wright and Tiffany for helping the Stony Brook Homeowners Association.
Hello, good evening. Of course, I'm here for another reason tonight, but I did want to thank, I believe in giving kudos where kudos are due. I wanted to thank Hattie for responding back to our email for Stony Brook. I appreciate that very much. And I wanted to thank Ms. Phil, because I know you did some research for us and you got some papers ready for us and things like that. I do truly appreciate it. The residents of Stony Brook, appreciate it. And I just believe that you all are doing good things too. And I wanted to just tell you how much we thank you from the Stony Brook side. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that concludes applications. City manager report. Oh, here you go.
Do you have one?
So starting with the city parks, mini golf is rented, and then the tear down process and restructure of the facility will begin. Pickleball is moving forward. There's the upgrades to the Veterans Park, and the Clarksburg City Park is busy with all types of, what kind of sports? Baseball games. And there's a number of valuations that are going to go throughout the neighborhood parks during the winter months to decide what the action plan in spring is going to be for improvements. There's been a total of 46 building permits. There's a number of city engineer projects that are being worked on, and there's been 19 new complaints that are being worked on with code as well. There's a number of updates under the economic development section of the organization. So there's been some training. We've met with representatives from a number of companies. Our grant writer has identified various funding sources from some recreational amenities. And this Friday is First Friday. So this month's theme is Fly into Fall, featuring aviation-themed children's activity and information booths. Additionally, the Bourbon and Vinyl will be occurring at the Morris Friday evening, with proceeds benefiting the local Glen Elk Village redevelopment efforts, and tickets are still available through the Morris website. There was a whole list of collections for September from the Finance Department, and the audit of the 2022-2023 budget will begin October 17th and will be completed by Tetrick and Bartlett. The fire department responded to 291 calls in the month of September. They will be participating in a mock disaster at the North Central Regional Airport. They also assisted Bridgeport Fire and EMS with fire and rescue operations. Sean Phillips has been offered and accepted as a position as a probationary firefighter. The department collectively completed over 256 training hours, and a reminder that with the cooler weather approaching, it is recommended to have heating appliances inspected and serviced by a professional before operating them. The police department has responded to 2,063 calls for service in September. Halloween is scheduled for Tuesday, October 31st. Are we thinking of a different day?
It's a joke. I've seen you laughing.
During the hours of trick or treat, and the police department will have to make up a physical test on Saturday, October 14th. We've also advertised those online, and people can sign up ahead of time if you so choose to do that, so we know that you're coming, which is great. The Public Works Department has done a lot of work over the last month throughout the city. It's all listed. And the Robinson Grant has a robust list of performances that are happening in October. Just to highlight a few, tonight is the tank event. Council actually was there earlier today. The Lone Star concert, the Miss Amazing pageant, the Good Shot Judy concert. There's an evening with Mary Lowry. There's the Nutter School movie. There's the Heritage Winds performance. So there's lots of diverse options for people to choose from. And the wastewater treatment plant, they process 217 million gallons of wastewater with no violations. And tank inspections are now complete. And as a reminder, please do not flush baby wipes or flushable wipes down the drains. They do not dissolve and can cause blockages in the sewer line as well as damage to the pumps. Thank you.
City clerk's information, a zoning form in connection with an application to operate a private club, private wine restaurant, or tavern was filed by La Tapatia Super Mercado LLC at 415 Baltimore Avenue, returned to the applicant on September 26th. No unfinished business. New business, consideration of first reading of an ordinance of the City of Clarksburg, West Virginia, amending and reenacting Section 933.02 B, C, D, E, and F of the Code of the City of Clarksburg relating to the imposition of rates for the use of services rendered by the sewer system and establishing standards for use of such system and the computation of such rates for non-residents of the City of Clarksburg.
Tim, would you like to come up and explain that for us, please? Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me say that this sewer rate increase only applies to our friends in the other municipalities and public service districts. It does not apply to Clarksburg retail customers. To have a complete discussion of this issue, and particularly for those of you that are new in city government, just a few principles I want to remind you of. Number one is once the council legislates and passes an ordinance and it's certified by the city clerk, that's an enrolled legislation. That is the final word for council. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that our public utilities operate on a revenue needs basis, so that a year ago or so, the sanitary board hired Dietrich and Bartlett, an accounting firm, and Dietrich and Bartlett calculated the revenue needed for the sanitary board to meet its operations and maintenance and capital requirements. And that calculation resulted in a rate design that the sanitary board approved. That rate design came to council. Somewhere in that process, the rate design was changed. And it wasn't, as far as we know, it was not changed by an action of council. It was not an amendment that any councilor proposed. It was an administrative error that went forward. And then the enrolled legislation, the enrolled sewer rate, didn't match the revenue requirements of the utility. In that, we phased the rate increase in, and the effective dates were incorrect on the ordinance, so that the sewer utility would not receive enough revenues to continue operating on a sound fiscal basis. Our friends in Nutter Fort and one of the PSDs that we serve pointed that out. Said, well, council passed this, but you're charging us what the sanitary board approved. So we had that disconnect. And the only way to fix it, there's no short way to fix this other than to come back to you and ask you to reconsider the rate ordinance and reinstall the rates that are necessary for us to meet the revenue requirements of the utility. So that's what you have in front of you. You see the ordinance changes effective dates and changes a rate. That is the first phase rate that we changed. The only reason we changed that rate was to make up for the lost revenues that we suffered because of this administrative error.
And for clarification, Tim, anybody who did pay that increased rate, we will either be refunding or crediting their bill, and then everybody will be charged the amended rate going forward.
Yes, the excellent point. Thank you, Ms. Fell. We're treating everybody the same way. So, and we think that's important, so that we will adjust going forward with some credits, and we'll get back on sound cash flow basis revenue requirements. So that's the request from the sanitary board in front of you this evening. And subject to your questions, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation.
Tim, anybody have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. What time period are we looking at as far as making up this lost revenue to get back on track?
We will make it up, and I'll turn to the numbers woman in the corner here, but I believe we'll make it up, that deficiency up in that first phase, that first year from 2024 to 25, then we'll be even. Then we will meet the revenue requirements as calculated by Dietrich and Bartlett.
And once again, this doesn't affect the citizens of Clarksburg.
Absolutely not. This only affects our partners in the public service district and the other municipalities.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. We have a motion? No? Okay.
I'll move we approve as presented.
Second.
Discussion. I just had a question, and maybe Will could answer this, or the city manager, but how often does these sewer rates increase over the years? Does it increase to the rate of inflation, or?
I believe in 2021, it went 15%. Kim, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it like 15% the first year, then 10, then 5.55? Is that how that worked out? I think it was in 2021 when we passed, and that was for residential users. It wasn't for this, I guess, retail customers. I guess, in the other municipalities. But I believe that's how it went in 2021. I'd have to look back on those, which I do have, actually, on this other moment, but I can get that for you.
Thanks a lot. That's all I got.
We don't go on that, do we? All right, somebody want to make a motion? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Consideration of a resolution regarding the on-track program.
No, this is, John Whitmer, our Director of Economic Development, had given us a presentation, I believe, 2 meetings ago.
Right.
This is just the resolution to move forward with that program.
Okay.
Can you give an overview for the people here so
Yeah.
they understand what we're passing?
John, can you give just an overview for everybody on that, please?
Just really quick, this is a program that allows for the downtown historic district to be evaluated. We're gonna have state officials and I guess, how do I put this? Architectural and engineers involved in reviewing buildings in the downtown historic district for not only just general historic preservation and economic development opportunities, but then also looking at our businesses and our local philanthropic groups, making sure we're having connections where we have, like say, volunteers doing First Fridays, making sure they're linked up with Clarksburg Uptown to be able to fund those endeavors, and then also making sure that we have the actual volunteer capacity to make these events something that is really, I guess, I would say first class. You want to make sure it's a quality event. They would come in and provide those services, and then with that, we can proceed if it makes sense to become a full-fledged Main Street organization. And then that's when there's grant opportunities and it becomes its own nonprofit, either a business league, a 501c6, or a charity 501c3.
Mr. Whitmer, are there any fiduciary liabilities that we have to undertake?
There'll be staff time, but otherwise, any monies associated with the program would be something that would come before the city manager. We don't have any large expenditures anticipated with this at this time, but in the next year, we will identify them and bring them to you all.
Mr. Whitmore, also, even if not accepted for this program, are there any benefits to the city for, just submitting this application?
Well, we've completed a lot of research related to just our amenities in the downtown. We were able to combine this with some of our business information that we already have. So being able to strengthen our mapping to show what type of land uses are in our downtown. Are those necessarily positive land uses? And going through the application, you kind of get a sense of things that they're kind of looking for that we can use to leverage for arts and for nonprofits, things like that, to get people in the downtown and sticking around. So it's been beneficial. It's been a very beneficial process. The big thing, though, is this is a process that is only open once every 3 to 5 years. So while it would be something that would be very advantageous for us to apply to just to get the general training, but yeah, it has been a benefit going through the application.
Anybody else have questions for Mr. Whitmore?
Yeah, I had a question. So essentially what you're saying is that this on-track program doesn't mean that we're going to get a Main Street organization.
That's correct.
So for volunteer activities in events like First Friday, with the on-track program, if they need any kind of funding or support for that and structure, where is that structure, in that fiscal funding mechanism to get sponsorships? Who does it go through at that point?
Well, so the whole idea is to have an organization set up to be able to have this conversation and then actually have a development program for either a charitable giving scheme or some kind of just a method to ensure they're getting fundraising and having monies come in. If they become a Main Street organization, you have to have an executive director who is a full-time position, and that position has to have at least 50% of I believe the entire budget for the organization has to come from non-governmental sources. So the idea is to have a sustainable organization, but also recognizing that since this is Clarksburg's downtown, the city government has to be involved in facilitating a lot of these transactions and a lot of these group meetings. It takes time and effort, and that's something that the organization, having that structure of just having a board put together and having bylaws that everyone's agreed on, and then someone's looked at it for legal compliance, getting to that point would be a huge win just overall for not just First Fridays, but there's a few other groups. We're looking at this program, if it were to be successful, expansion to other historic districts, so that we'd be able to hopefully have some additional methods to have funding come into these areas.
So the on-track program is pretty much its own organization?
Well, it would be something that we are an agent to make it happen. It can become its own organization. There are a few in the state that, when I say a few, there are a few cities in the state that do not have the Main Street designation. They've retained the on-track. It's just the benefit of working with economic development office staff, or I guess department staff now, and being able to really, I guess, get information that we can then provide to our business owners or property owners and then other brokerage firms to be able to market the area.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Whitmore. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Consideration of a petition filed by George and Nancy Brown, 103 Argonne Street, requesting the abandonment of an unimproved alley in the Heartland section of the city.
I'll make a motion to move this item to the Planning and Zoning Committee.
We have a motion and a second to move this to PZA. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Council comments?
Mr. Hyman. Oh, you want me to have Mr. Worth go first?
No, I'm okay. I appreciate it, though. Thank you for thanks for the offer. We do have a lot of people here tonight, and, the last couple of weeks have been a little trying for some members of the community, and I understand why. A lot of people don't like some of the things I say when it comes to a solution here. And I'll say it again, I've said it maybe a million times in the last 24, 48 hours. Members of the community and even members of council, they have every right to be upset with what happens on 2nd and Pike Street. But, they have every right, you guys have every right to do what you're doing. And obviously, what the city tried to do or got involved in is, we didn't handle it right. And in my opinion, after the sidewalk ordinance failed, it's a done deal. And, I think we just got to look forward and realize the conversation we had today was for the better. I think it will be. Jody had some comments earlier, and she said a lot of things that I say on a regular basis about opportunity. And I've said it before several times up here that I don't think the times that we're seeing now are quite over yet for the city of Clarksburg. I don't believe, honestly, we've seen the bottom yet. I know that's tough to say, it's tough to hear, but, soup lines or bread lines or, these events that you guys host, school closings and consolidations, abandoned homes, drug addiction, mental illness, things that plague our community are not the cause of why Clarksburg is in the situation it is. They're symptoms of the decline of the city that we experience. And really, you can only treat the symptoms so much. When you have cancer and you're doing treatment for it and you get sick, you can treat that, but you're not really curing cancer. You're only treating the issues that come with it. So I believe the cure is opportunity. It's giving opportunity for business owners, giving opportunity for people to find jobs and turning it around. But obviously when the city gets in the way or any level of government gets in the way and tries to stop these things, it only hurts the people who are receiving these benefits, and that's a tough pill to swallow. But we have to do a better job at doing what we need to do here at city council to deliver opportunity. And I hate to bring this up, but there's a reason that when you cross over I-79, you head to Bridgeport, their city sign, when you come, opportunity lives here. I mean, they know that's what it takes to have a thriving city. Now, I can talk to you for hours about why they have opportunity and maybe we don't. But that would take hours to hash out, and we'd be living in the past, and I'm not intending to live up here in the past. We need to find opportunity instead of going after organizations that are trying to do the right thing. So it's unfortunate that we have to have this conversation, but at the end of the day, everybody has a right to be upset. Everybody has a right to be, to like things that they see in the street or see at their neighbor's house or whatever. They have a right to do that, unfortunately. But you guys have a right to do what you guys are doing today. So I don't want to keep going around in circles here. I know it's not the greatest council comments, but I hope you guys can understand. So I hope to see you guys on First Friday, and we'll see you again next week or 2 weeks from now. Right? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Harmon. Mr. Worth, the birthday boy, today is, for all you that don't know, it is Wayne's birthday.
We're just happy.
Yeah, my wife reminded me this morning.
Oh,
Oh, man. Anyhow, I thank everyone for coming out today. I know this has been sort of a contentious thing for, I don't know, maybe a month or two now. And I really kind of this kind of brought me to center of what Jody had to say tonight, and, focusing on the positive, but we have to acknowledge that there are a lot of challenges that we have in our community, and it's going to take some, real solutions. But I'm just going to focus on the positive first. When I see this city manager's report, it's the best thing that I see up here on this council. Really is, because it shows the work that everybody's doing. I mean, Public Works, they dominate most of the time 2 pages of this. And just, looking at our fire department, how many calls did we go out on? 291 calls for a city of 16,000. That's amazing. Our police department, 2,063 calls. That's got to be like the hardest job in the city. I thank those folks, and I don't, maybe you might think I'm just, just blowing smoke or whatever when I read this, but I'm not, because this is really how city government runs, and this to me, even down to the sewage treatment plant. Who recognizes what goes on in the sewage treatment plant? When you flush the toilet, you just expect, guess what? That stuff's going to go to the right place. But you know what? When that stuff gets treated, there's a process, in that. I'm not going to explain that process to you, but the thing is, it's a very important process, because that process goes wrong. Guess what? The city gets fined and people's water sources get tainted. That's important stuff. So when I see this city manager report, I'm thinking, wow, this is how city runs, even down to the Robinson Grant. I mean, we had Mountain Stage here last month. It's incredible. There's a lot of things to be happy and proud of in Clarksburg, and this is it for me right here. So let's go on to the main issue here tonight and why people are here. So I've always been in support of feeding the poor and the needy. That's pretty much being the hands and feet of Jesus. That's loving your neighbor. It really is. And plus, it's your right to feed people. Even in public space. As a matter of fact, there was a 11th District U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in a lawsuit against the city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And in their opinion, they said that feeding the homeless is an expressive conduct protected by the First Amendment. Now, I'm no lawyer or anything, but constitutionally, there are grounds for debate and interpretation. And in my opinion, I think the city would not benefit from going down that road or being a part of it. Now, with that said, I'm also a professional social worker, and I've been a social worker and dedicated my profession for 16 years. Went to school for it, lived and breathed it, and still do. And I value the importance of building rapport and trust with people that, we are trying to serve, that you're trying to serve, and you guys do that. But I am going to tell you, helping people overcome and manage very dynamic and complex problems takes more than just building rapport. It does. It also takes true case management. Building rapport and trust is the first step. That's getting the conversation going. The second step is not only referring people to services, but linking them to them, making sure they get linked to it, not just handing out something and saying, here you go, call this number if you want detox, but making sure they get linked to that, and those resources that will help them address some of these problems that they're facing. And the third step is follow-up and then ensure that folks that we are all trying to help benefit from these services. That way they're not back on our streets again. That way they get the quality of life that we all want for each other and we all want for them. That's case management 101. And it's my hope that when we as a community are trying to help our neighbors struggle with addiction, homelessness, or food insecurity, that we are using and utilizing something that mirrors this outcome-based model. Okay? That's essential. At the end of the day, though, if we're going to tackle any of these challenges or any challenges here in Clarksburg that we face as a community, we all have to be outcome-driven. We got to have a plan and we got to be outcome-driven. We got to foster engagement and communication, and we got to respect one another's contribution to the process. And when we do that, we will be a community. If we don't do that, we will be a divided community. And everyone suffers in a divided community. The people that we're trying to serve, everyone. That's all I got to say. Have a happy First Friday, and God bless you.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Jackson?
Yes. I would like to thank everyone for coming out this evening and airing your cares and concerns. That's what this is all about. I would like to thank Ms. Barbario for her comments. We get lost in the negative way too often. It's too easy to focus on the negative, and we get there, we get stuck. And a lot of times I think when we get to that negative, we feel like that's the only thing that we can hang on to. We lose focus of the positive, the good things that are going on. And we have a lot of negative things going on in our community right now. And it's going to take a lot to get us out of there. When you were talking, Ms. Barbario, about people looking back and trying to find, those good old days, I always say we need to find our identity for where we're going. We need to be looking forward to that vision of what are we trying to create in this city? What do we want to make out of Clarksburg? Because we're not going backwards. I hear a lot of talk about what it used to be. It's not going to be that anymore. Times have changed. So we have to keep looking forward, and we need to find the identity, and we need the community to help us do that. So thank you for your comments there. The individuals here from the Friends Feeding Friends, We met with them this afternoon. Thank you for coming in. Basically, I'm going to leave it where I always leave it. This is a complex problem. It's a complex problem. It's not going to be solved by one person, 2, 3. We have a lot of resources. I heard individuals sharing and speaking and talking about a lot of the different resources. And that's why it's so important that we come together as a community, because the only way we're going to solve this problem in our community is as a community. We have to work together. We have to pool these resources. And like Wayne said, not just give an individual a piece of paper, but make sure that that individual is linked, a warm handle to that resource so that they can actually, get that resource and utilize it. So, but thank you very much for coming in. We had a very good conversation, and I trust that, we will move forward from that conversation. I hope that, that was just, the beginning of where this whole thing is going to go, because I want to see a safe, clean Clarksburg. And it's going to take us a while to get there, but I trust that we can get there. I would like to congratulate probationary firefighter Sean Phillips. Welcome aboard to firefighter Phillips. It's always good when we get new firefighters in. These young guys. Over the years, I've had opportunity to run behind the fire department for some time, and they've had almost a complete turnover down at the fire department. They've got a young bunch down there right now that I tell you what, I wouldn't want anybody else to run out if I had a fire in my house right now. Because, I used to run behind them. I took pictures of fire. Now I run behind them. I get pictures of just smoke and steam. And that's a good thing, because those guys are getting there and they're getting the job done. So, welcome aboard to him. And when Will was talking about the opportunities, I would just like to say, that's another reason that it's important that we come together as a community and work together as a community, because there are opportunities out here. And if we continue to work in silos, we'll none know about it. We have to come together and share the information and the resources that we have so that we can make sure that everybody is able to utilize those resources that need those resources. But with that, once again, I thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Ms. Wright?
Yes, I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight as well. It's good to see a full City Hall. And I also want to thank Ms. Barbario. I really appreciated your thoughts, and I can tell you're very passionate about your community. So that was nice to hear, and nice to hear some of the positive aspects from someone who's been here so long. I also want to just address the issue with Friends Feeding Friends. I truly feel like it's been a lot of miscommunication and misinterpreting intent behind the communication that we have had. I do think that we were simply trying to provide suggestions to make it better for not only those who need that weekly resource, but also other members of our community. And I just want you to remember that as elected officials, we have to represent everyone, not just one organization or one group. We have business owners, we have residential communities that we have to represent, and we hear complaints and we hear the negative from those people, just like we are willing to hear you all out and hear, the reasons why you believe it's a positive thing for our community. And it was nice to hear both sides and to hear the positive aspects that were spoken about tonight. I just hope that moving forward, we can have better communication and better interpretation of what each group is wanting. And really, it's going to take compromise. It's going to take compromise from the business owners and from your organization. And I don't believe that your organization is the problem at all, or the single problem that we have. There's a lot of problems and a lot of different things that are contributing to the negative effects that we're seeing. So I agree with Councilmember Jackson, we have to come together and work together to make it better for everyone. Again, not just one group or another group, but for everyone. So, everyone just wants to see a safer and a cleaner downtown area. We want to see businesses thrive, and we want to see those who need help get that help. So I just would encourage you not to think of us as the enemy or, against you all. That's not the case. I believe everyone up here has a very giving and loving heart, and we want to help those who need it. but it's going to take compromise on both sides. So that's pretty much all I have. I hope everyone has a great weekend and has a safe weekend as well.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Mr. Howe?
Keep it short. I think you guys hit everything pretty much, but Ms. Barbario, appreciate your words, and I'd like to recognize also Patty Gonzalez from Northview Pride. Appreciate you guys coming. Again, I'm also pleased to hear just now about the council meeting with Feeding Friends as well. I'm sorry Kevin couldn't be here tonight. I hope his dad's thoughts and prayers as well. But it's good to hear the miscommunication and things that come out and get resolved. And I think that's big steps forward. Other than that, really, I just have a couple complaints. I'll give it to you offline. Just some property complaints and issues that we have. That's all I have to that.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I think everything's been said. You always say it's tough going last. Everything has been said. And I know Chief Kitty always gets on me, he said I always talk too much, so I'll keep it short for him.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. So we have two younger gentlemen here, Reese and Calvin. They're here doing the poli-sci report, right? Is that what it's for? So this was a perfect night for you guys to come. You saw everything. Talking about sewage increases to issues that the community has, to miscommunication, to passion. And one thing, if you guys take away anything, is it's the passion, as you saw. Everybody's got passion. The problem with this city is that we start so far apart with our passion that it's so hard to come together. Because if we would bring our passion together, we would get things closer the way Ms. Barbera used to talk about how things were. That's the toughest thing to get going. And if you do anything, when you get on government, like Hattie said, it's tough. You have to represent everybody. You have to pretty much check your passion at the door when you get here, because you can't bring your singular passion or things that you're really passionate about, like things that me and Wayne used to be passionate about, and we always speak about picking up trash and stuff. We're still passionate about doing those things, but now we have to focus on other things that it's tough. It's tough to be everywhere. So, it's just the passion that people come, and it's the passion that makes things like First Fridays thrive when everybody gets involved. Ms. Barbario is involved in that. You can see her passion through that. She shows up. She handles the toughest job at all of them is rallying or communicating with the vendors and the food trucks. They just show up when they want to. They don't call back. She has a tough job. And it's just things like that is what bring the community together. Today, I want to say I'm involved with the Jerry West Basketball League, and we got a call today from the FOP, and how things used to be, it would be a lot easier to find sponsors. So the FOP called, and they want to offer to sponsor the whole entire league. This changes funding for our league tremendously. We can almost offer basketball leagues to the low-income families in the city for free. The families that are struggling with 3-4 kids that they all want to play basketball, we can make that possible. Those are the things that need to happen, and we put all our passion together. Those are the things that happen more often. And then I disagree with Will. We have not bottom. We're not at the bottom. We're climbing up, and you can see it in the manager report. You can see the passion. We just have to get all on the same page and communicate better, and show the younger generation how it's done. And then when that generation comes, the city will be thriving. And I know, again, Will said opportunity lives there, but it was born here. All right?
Where'd it go, Jerry? Where'd it go?
Bridgeport. I mean, it went other places. I agree. It went other places, but it was born here, is what I'm saying. So, Mayor, you can't be talking while I'm talking. You gotta shut that down.
Mr. Hyman, you had your time.
So that's all I have to say. First Friday's tomorrow. Please, everybody come out. It's the community event. We have a lot of great things. Library, Robinson Granders, everything's going on downtown. Be downtown tomorrow. Look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I get to go last, and everybody's covered everything that needs to be said. I just want to reiterate to everyone, if you see something, say something, dial 911. I'm a big advocate of this because of incidents that happened to me 3 years ago. But we are putting up 22 signs in the neighborhoods that says, see something, say something, dial 911. I'm happy to announce that we received a check for $35,000 from the Claude Worthington Benedum Foundation. So thank you to them. And don't forget, tomorrow's First Friday. Everybody have a nice weekend. Thanks for coming out. Call for adjournment.
Sorry.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting's adjourned.